Hey, it's Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. Do you have someone that's really hard to shop for? I do. I've got a few someones right now. When my kids were younger, it was so easy to shop for them. I'd walk into a Toys R Us or go into a Walmart toy aisle and say, "What would you like?" And they'd come out with Lego or come out with something so simple. And if they didn't have time to come shopping with me, I knew that Lego was the bomb, and that's exactly what they, and it was just so easy. But now I've got two teenagers. They're not really sure what they want anymore. And that's so hard now because I want to get them something that they want. I want to get them something that they like, and I can't do that confidently anymore. They've become hard to shop for. Do you know anybody that you have a hard time shopping for? Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a coworker. If you're watching this video with somebody, would you please take a moment and pause the video and share your experience about how hard it is to shop for someone and why it's so difficult for you? There's also someone else in my life that I had a really hard time trying to figure out what they wanted. The other person that I found a hard time trying to figure out what he really wanted was God. I started going to church when I was 13. I was sold on Jesus when I heard the idea that he is like a reset button. And for me, I really needed a do-over. I really needed a reset button. It was an awesome way of presenting Jesus, but it's also a pretty shallow way of presenting Jesus by just calling him the reset button, because he's more than a reset button. He's more than a chance for us to do our life over again. But he's a lot more than that. And it gets deep and it gets complicated. While I kept going to church and reading my Bible, I kept on figuring things out, but it didn't get easier. It actually got more complicated. The more I knew, the harder it seemed to get. And Sunday morning sermons, as helpful as they were, they also made things a little more complicated for me because I kept learning something new, which added to the complication, added to the difficult time that I had answering the question, what kind of gift can I give to God? What can I do to make God happy with me? What kind of service can I give to God where he would say, "Yeah, that's great. Well done"? How do you answer the question, what does God want from you? How do you answer the question, what is God's individual will for your life? So that's the video this time. The text for this video is based on Mark chapter 11, 12 to 14. I've got just three verses to help us answer the question, what does God really want from us? So this is concluding a three-part story, this little story arc in the Gospel of Mark. The story started with blind Bart, it continued with Jesus entering Jerusalem, and it ends right here with Jesus' commentary and a display of power, all surrounding a fig tree. The next morning, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. He noticed a fig tree in full leaf a little way off. So he went over to see if he could find any figs, but there were only leaves because it was too early in the season for fruit. Then Jesus said to the tree, "May no one ever eat your fruit again." And the disciples heard him say it. Hey kids, remember to keep your eyes on the background to see any characters hidden in there. And please also remember to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ. What does God want from all of us? Regardless of whether you're already following Jesus, if you're not following Jesus, if you think differently than I do about Jesus, can we try to answer this question, what does God really want from all of us? And I think that this text does help us to nail this down so that it becomes more clear, staying within the context of what the Gospel of Mark is trying to share with us. So in this three-part story that we've had for the last three videos ending right now, I think that we'll be able to answer this question well enough to not fret over it too much anymore. I want to start the journey to answering the question, what does God really want from us, by talking about God's desire. The text says Jesus was hungry. He noticed a fig tree. My daughters on Valentine's Day made a huge cake. It was a 4-layered red velvet cake with icing between every layer, thick icing on the outside. And then they also made homemade sugar cookies that they put all over it, dipped in chocolate, dipped in sprinkles. The thing was massive. It looked glorious and it was so yummy. And I ate some, and when I did, it made my head spin because of how much sugar there was in it. Such a great experience was had by all. And, an hour later, I'm lying in a sugar coma on the couch and saying, oh, wow, I want me some more of that cake. Every single time I saw the thing, something inside of me longed for it, even just a little bit, even though I knew I shouldn't be eating it. I really wanted it. My oldest daughter was so sad one day this week when she came back home and noticed that the last pieces of cake had been eaten by her younger sisters. The desire inside of her for the cake just couldn't be met, so she was so sad. While we're looking at Gospel of Mark here, can we keep in mind that this is really a metaphor? Yes, Jesus is hungry. Yes, he sees some figs. He probably likes the figs. He probably wants a fig, but there's more to this story than that. Jesus desires something. It's not figs. It's you. Jesus desires you. He wants you. So let's just let that sink in just for a moment, because this is a huge part of answering the question that I see this text posing. What does God really want from all of us? What can we do to make him happy with us? Okay, well, let's back that up a little bit. There's a problem with the question. God doesn't want something that you can give him. He doesn't want what you can do for him. That's not where this question starts. The question starts with, who does he want? And the answer is you and me. He wants us in relationship with him. And I totally didn't get that until I became a parent. It wasn't until I became a parent that I started really understanding how true this actually is. These days, when the kids ask me what I want for my birthday or what I want for Father's Day, I'm ready with that answer. I know what I want. I just want them. So I force them to play board games with me the entire day, because as they're playing board games with me the entire day, and it makes us all very tired and just burnt out with board games by the time the night reaches us, we have been engaged the entire day, and that's what I want. I want them. I don't want what they can give me. I don't want what they can do for me. I want them. That's the starting point, right? So let's make this about you now. Jesus wants you. That's the starting point. Can you do something about that? Yes, totally. You are absolutely 100% in control of giving God what he really, really wants. Okay, so if I'm what God really wants, if you're what God really wants, maybe we still don't get that. How do I give God me? Don't I still need me? Don't I still need to go to work? Don't I need to still go to school and be whatever it is I'm trying to be? Well, yeah, totally. So how do I give God what he really wants if what he really wants is me? To continue this journey we're on with these 3 verses and trying to answer the question, what does God really want from all of us? Let's now talk about you and narrow it down just to you now. The text says there were only leaves because it was too early in the season for fruit. And remember, we're looking at this as a metaphor because it's being used as a metaphor. Yes, Jesus probably really wanted a fig, but that's not why this story is in the text right here. The writer of Mark is showing us something here. This story is making a point, and here's what's behind this. There's an idea that runs all through the Gospel of Mark about how to give God what he really wants, and it's summed up with 2 choices. It's the choice acceptance versus rejection, or the choice humility versus self-belief. The fruit in this story is your choice. Will you choose to accept Jesus or reject him? Will you choose to humbly follow him, or will you be a little bit puffed up and believe in your own self-sustainability, thinking that you just need to know stuff about God? Just need to know what God knows, and then you're all good on your own, and humility isn't really your thing. Your choice becomes the fruit in this story. Your fruit is your acceptance of Jesus, followed up by your humility to follow him. So you learn from him. You choose to give him the best you can. You live like he's your friend and that you're accountable to him. Make no mistake, this is not easy. What does God really want from all of us? He wants us to accept Jesus instead of reject him, and he wants us to humbly follow him. Okay, so we get this, right? So this is a video for people who have not yet chosen to follow Jesus. Got it. Well, no, it's not actually. I mean, certainly it could be, absolutely. I think everyone needs to know what Jesus wants from us. And certainly it starts with a simple belief and our determination to follow Jesus, just to try to figure out what does it mean to live as a friend of God, following Jesus. Absolutely, we all need to know that, sure. But that's not all the story has for us. Christians, Jesus followers, this is actually more for you than anyone who has not yet followed Jesus. Because keep in mind, the very next story is all about what Christianity looks like when someone accepts God but chooses self-belief rather than chooses the humility required to be a follower. That text ends really, really sadly, and that's for next week's video. Jesus reaches out as though he's reaching out to a fig tree and doesn't find any fruit, but it's not figs he's looking for. It's people he's looking for. What he finds is people who say they believe in him, but they're so filled with self-belief that they're not following him. He's surrounded by religious people who seem to look the part, but they're not the part. He's surrounded by the Jerusalem level of receptivity rather than the blind Bart level of total commitment and humble enough to be a follower of him. Now, this is very important because it's going to help us understand what comes next. The next stop in the journey is what Jesus does to put an end to the old covenant, the old way of people trying to connect with God, and start the new way of people trying to connect with God, the new covenant, faith in Jesus, believing in him and living as a follower of Jesus. But the really big deal about self-belief, that's next week's video. For this week, let's stop at this point right here. What does God really want from all of us? He wants what this text calls fruit, receiving him rather than rejecting him. And that's just a very simple belief in him, saying, yes, Jesus, I believe who you say you are. And then the humility to follow him rather than being puffed up with self-belief, which isn't exactly pride and hubris. It's more of a self-belief, like I can sustain myself, God. I just need to know the important stuff. I just need to know what you know, and then I'm fine. I could do life fine. I believe in you, but just leave me on my own. It's not what God's looking for. He's looking for your simple belief, and then your willingness to follow him and try to figure out what it means to live as his friend. Here's my encouragement to you for this week, for right now. Please give yourself an assessment and ask these two questions of yourself. Am I accepting or am I rejecting Jesus? Do you believe in him or not? And second, am I humbly following him in a one-down relationship, or am I doing something other? That's it from me to you for now. Listen, if you don't have a community you're connecting with, consider connecting with For Community. Also, these videos barely scratch the surface. When we meet together in our gatherings on Zoom, we get a chance to take it deeper. We get a chance to talk about what's on all of our minds. We get a chance to talk back to me and to each other saying, I really didn't like that point. I think this is the point that you should have made. We get a chance to say, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about something else that's on my mind right now. They're very awesome meetings. Let me just extend an invitation to you. If you'd like to take it to the next level, if you'd like to go deeper, if you want to talk more about this or about something else, can I please ask you to reach out, ask for the Zoom link to our next gathering. For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.